Um, whenever Chris makes it, he'll make it, but I don't want to waste anyone's time. So I'm James. I am gonna do an online course for technical writing. I'm kind of using this to kind of get my bearings. And I know that Sam's interested. You seem like you might be interested. You might be potentially interested. Maybe eventually even you. But so I'm just gonna get right into it. I just slapped this together, so it's not in a final state, but this is the agenda. Basically, like, what is it? What's in for you? Because most of the time, people they don't want to waste their time unless they know it's beneficial to them in some way. So I'll let you know like what's in it for you, who I am, my background and credentials, the realities of doing technical writing, because there is some like bad news. You know, it's not all great. So there's some realistic expectations that are set. How to get started, and some pathways and examples, and then at the end, if you want to save any questions till the end, we'll do a Q&A. So the introduction into technical writing, the definition. Technical writing involves creating clear, concise, and structured documentation that serves as a specific purpose for a specific audience. It's about translating complex information into readable and understandable content. So essentially, I'm like a translator. Is that recording?
It is, I'm sorry for you.
Cool, thanks. A lot of times at most of my roles, I'm talking to the smartest people at the company, the engineers, the senior management, and they'll be divulging the complex knowledge that they have that they want to get translated to a specific audience. So I'm always thinking from that perspective of who's gonna end up reading this documentation. Are they gonna be able to understand what these guys are talking about? The purpose and the function, the primary goal is to convey the information efficiently. So if they read it and they don't get it, then I failed at my job. So whether it's a user manual, frequently asked questions, reports, or policy documents, technical writing helps these users understand products, processes, and the systems. The introduction to technical writing. The key characteristics. So you want to make sure that your documentation is clear and it has clarity. The text is understandable. It's not ambiguous. There's no they're not getting lost. They're not coming back, hey, this doesn't make sense. So that's why you want to make sure that it's accurate, it's precise, it provides factual information. The brevity, it's concise. You want to say less with more, or you can say more with less, basically. You don't want to sacrifice too much detail, but you don't want to be overly detailed. And then the user-centric, it's tailored to meet the needs and understanding level of the intended audience. So sometimes I'm writing documentation for other engineers, and they understand some of that complex information, so I'll keep it in there. But sometimes I'm writing for the public at large, and there's no telling, it's such a wide spectrum, the audience, they might not have any idea what it is, so you kind of want to dumb it down a little bit, so to speak. The examples, software user guides. If you're installing a new program, you don't know how to use it, there's a user guide. If you get some furniture from IKEA, how to put it together. Electronic devices, SOPs, standard operating procedures. Specific industries will have this is the protocol, this is how we do it, this is how it's done. Scientific research papers, policy documents for government and organizations. So this is a very broad profession. You might be able to work at it from any sort of angle. If you have a healthcare background, you could be writing for medicine, or if you have government background, you could be working with proposals. The introduction to technical writing continued. Why does it matter? Good technical writing allows users to effectively use and understand technology, processes, ensuring safety, efficiency, and productivity. The reason why this profession is kind of growing is because we live in a technological society now. Everything we do is somehow related to the digital world, and I get recruiters constantly hitting me up for jobs all the time. So I know that the work is out there.
Yeah.
And if you learn how to do this skill, you'll probably be able to find work pretty easily. The key benefits. There's a high demand in diverse industries. Technical writers are sought after in various sectors: technology, healthcare, engineering, finance. I work for Morgan Stanley. I was doing their policy and procedures. There's a high demand, translates to job security. I don't have to worry, like I said, I did an interview with Meta earlier this week. I had a recruiter hit me up for a job as a solution architect, which has never happened, but because I've been in this industry for so long, I think that apparently my profile picked up on their search, so it provides diverse career opportunities.
You said your nephew just got it? Was that your nephew?
I helped my nephew, I mentored him. He has secret clearance, so he's in the Coast Guard.
Oh.
But so that helped. Because of his clearance, he was able to like apply for higher level jobs.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I was just able to mentor him and tell him what to do, and he got offered an $8,000 salary job. I think he was making, I'm not sure exactly what it was before that, but it was more than he's ever made so far.
Yeah.
Another benefit is the remote work. I haven't worked on site since 2019 when the pandemic started. And I don't plan on going back on site anytime soon. I probably saved a lot of money not getting up early. I saved time, not making lunch, not buying lunch, not sitting in traffic. They don't pay for any of that stuff. And because I'm not paying for that anymore, I'm saving a lot more. So remote work is the way to go. If you can get a remote job, highly recommended. If you have kids, you want to spend more time with them, you want to be more present in their lives, definitely beneficial. Competitive salaries. When I first started out in 2018, that job paid me $50,000, which was the most I'd ever made at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently making $75 an hour, so that translates to like 156. And
75 an hour.
yeah,
Good.
and I just slowly got better and better opportunities, higher salaries, at a level now where it's probably the only way up would be to become a manager.
Mm-hmm.
But because I value my time more than the money, there's no way they could talk me into working late night, weekends. It's not gonna happen.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So
balance.
yeah, definitely important. And then the continuous learning and skill development is pretty critical because I'm working with the smartest people at all these companies, and I'm soaking up all this knowledge from them. It's just making me a smarter person, and it's developing to a level that I never expected, didn't plan on achieving. It encourages continuous learning, keeping you at the forefront of industry trends, technologies. It's an excellent path for those who enjoy acquiring new knowledge and skills. More key benefits, contribution to the user experience and product success. Because you're basically generating the documentation that's so critical for these companies' success, you're playing a critical role in that user experience. Clear and effective documentation enhances customer satisfaction, and it contributes to the overall success of a product and a service. There's career growth potential. With experience, technical writers can advance into senior roles, management, or specialize in areas like API documentation, medical writing, policy writing. It opens doors to a wide range of career paths. I can attest to that. So this is the real world impact of technical writing. It enhances the user experience. A lot of this might be repetitive. I haven't been able to fully edit it yet. Technical writing directly impacts how users interact with products and services. Well-written manuals, guides lead to a better understanding, smoother operation, and more positive overall experience. You may have had a time where you've dealt with a document. A lot of times it's usually like putting furniture together. It's not very well written, so you're not really sure. You're putting it together wrong, you gotta redo it. That's bad technical writing. Good technical writing, you put it together right the first time, there's not a problem. Improve product accessibility. Clear instructions and documentation make technology and products more accessible to a broader audience. So if the documentation is written very well, you can give it to anybody and they'll be able to figure it out. Because of the varying levels of experience and backgrounds. Increasing safety and compliance. Fields like manufacturing, healthcare, and construction, these technical documents are crucial for safety protocols and compliance with regulations. accurate and clear writing can be a matter of safety and legal responsibility. I've worked in some compliance documentation, some of the stuff that I've done with like healthcare, information technology, there's a lot of HIPAA compliance, private information, so you want to make sure that you're adhering to certain laws and guidelines. And then facilitating training and education. Technical writers produce materials that are essential for training employees, educating customers, implementing new systems or processes. Pretty much any job you've ever gotten, most likely they put you through some sort of training. Those instructions and those classes, some technical writer probably put that together. The real world impact of technical writing continued, case studies and success stories. So I worked for a company, it was a contract, but I was working for Care First, and it was their IT support, and a lot of times the people that had issues would call into the help desk, and if they called the same issue and it was repetitive enough, they would have me create a job aid or a frequently asked question. And by having these documents readily available, it would minimize the amount of calls that the help desk were getting, so it kind of freed up their bandwidth. Driving innovation and understanding. Good technical writing can bridge the gap between complex innovations and user understanding, playing a pivotal role in the adoption and success of new technologies. So with the interview that I did for Meta, I did some research and I was able to read their documentation and figure out how to get a project that I was working on in a game engine running on my Oculus headset. So who am I? My background and credentials. I'm James. I consult for Innosoft right now. A brief history of my career path. I studied business in my undergrad. I got an accounting degree. I got a master's in entrepreneurship. I thought business was probably a better route for me. When I was in college, I was excelling at writing, but I just didn't see money in it. And I had a young family at the time, so I just felt like I gotta be able to get paid. So I did accounting for a couple of years. I ended up working for a company called PVBS, and they were a software company. They created a variation of Microsoft Dynamics. It was for the government contracting space. They were a competitor to Dell Tech. It was more cost affordable. And the way that their solution worked, it was kind of like a subscription. Every year, these companies had to renew the subscription to keep it up to date. If they wanted like bug fixes. And so I started writing these proposals. Every month there would be a new batch of clients. I had to write another set of proposals. And they all had unique needs, desires. I would kind of facilitate their wants to the engineers. They would give me like what needed to be done in order to like implement that, to basically get them to re-sign and renew. And that's how the company made money. But I learned how to write proposals. And one of their clients was a company, Unisont, and they offered me a job as a technical writer. They said, we can give you this job if you can show us if you can do this, even though I didn't have a background. And what I've noticed a lot of times in technical writing, there's no real clear-cut path. Like some of my colleagues at work, one was ex-military, he wrote machine gun manuals. Another one was a teacher. So there's not like a technical writing like direct path. A lot of people kind of parallel move into it. And they wanted to know if I had a portfolio. So I had written some articles for the website Motley Fool. They published those. I had that to show them. I did an internship at South by Southwest. They had me do a research project for AARP. I showed them that. So a lot of times what I tell people trying to get into this field is create a portfolio. Have a strong resume, strong portfolio, you can probably start getting work. And then from that point you start building up. Let's see. So understanding the challenges in technical writing. Trying to make complex information simplified. This is one of the challenges, is trying to like do that translation and making that bridge. It's sort of a skill that you eventually like develop that talent. A lot of times if you approach it from the audience perspective, you can kind of ask the proper questions. So what they call the subject matter experts, the guys with all the knowledge, you can let them know like this component of the language doesn't make sense. How can we simplify this? But once you have a deep understanding of what they're talking about, you can kind of approach it from that perspective and isolate like what the audience would need. Keeping up with technological advances, technical writers must continuously update their knowledge to stay up to date with the new technologies and industry changes. So it just keeps you on kind of the cusp. It's kind of, you never stop learning essentially.
Yeah.
Meeting the diverse audience needs. Depending on the actual audience, there'll be a different set of needs. So this is what you'll be crafting your documentation to be catered to their experience level, from the beginners to the experts, and sometimes this can be a challenge. The content must be accurate but accessible to all the users. And then you want to balance detail with brevity. So there's kind of a fine line and a nuance there. You want to strike the right balance between those details and keeping the content concise to the point where, and sometimes that can be difficult. And a lot of times you'll do iterations of the documentation. So you'll go through revisions and editing. It's never really like fully done. Especially with technology, because it moves so fast, eventually you're gonna have to update your document. Because overly technical writing can be just as unhelpful as overly simplified content. Understanding the challenges continued, being consistent and standardizing. You want to maintain consistency with the terminology and the style. A lot of times different companies that you work for will have a style guide, so it'll kind of be like the rules and the way that they write, kind of their voice. You want to kind of stay on script with that. Same thing with the formatting. They'll have certain typography that they use, certain fonts, the way that they do bullet points. Once you know those rules, you'll be able to kind of like apply that to everything else that you're writing. Sometimes this can be challenging, but it's really just the learning curve. Once you kind of like get the full understanding, you can go into new documentation pretty easy. And then adapting to the different formats and the tools. I've had to learn a lot of different tools depending on what they use. With my current consulting job, some of our business teams are using Google Suite, and some of them are using Microsoft 365. Some of them are using both. So you gotta be able to kind of change gears. Technical writers need to be proficient with these tools and the publishing to be able to adapt to the different documentation formats, from the print manuals to the online help systems. So these are the skills and the effort required in technical writing. Core skills: writing proficiency, clear, concise, accurate writing, technical knowledge, understanding the subject matter, being able to research. A lot of times you won't have a clear-cut answer, and you're gonna have to just be able to figure it out on your own. I definitely leverage a lot of Google, especially lately. ChatGPT has been like my best friend this past year. It's helped me develop my course. It helped me figure out how to build a website. I was too cheap to pay somebody, so I just said I'm just gonna figure this out myself, and so far so good with that. And then attention to detail. If you have like a really sharp eye, you can notice mistakes, you can notice changes, you can do very well in this career. Some soft skills is communication. A lot of times you'll be talking to these subject matter experts, these high level people at the companies, and sometimes there's a lot of ego involved. So sometimes you kind of have to approach them in certain ways. So being able to deal with the different varying levels of skill with these subject matter experts in the team, being able to problem solve, being creative with your solutions, and then time management, because if you're dealing with multiple projects, you just have to be able to pinpoint which one is a major priority and which ones can be put on the back burner. The learning and development, the continuous learning, keeping up to date with the industry trends and the tools and the technologies. I've always been kind of a nerd. I was a huge gamer when I was a kid. That kind of got me into technology. And then I wanted to make video games. That was like my dream when I was a kid. So that's when I started learning how to use the game engines. And so that just kind of got me into being up to date with like this ultra short throw laser projector. I have like the PSVR 2 headset. So I'm pretty high tech, and it's good to stay ahead of that curve. That's like another reason why I really a huge proponent of using chat and AI. Some people are scared of it. I think that's a mistake. I think if you don't really learn how to use this tool, you're gonna be kind of a dinosaur in a few years, because it's gonna be used by pretty much anyone that's staying up to date with like current technology trends. Let's see, the feedback reception. So you can't take too much ownership of the document. You're kind of writing it for other people, other audiences, other companies. So whenever they have some critique and they want it to be written a certain way, you can kind of give them, your personal preference. But at the end of the day, that's how they want it done. You're just gonna have to like take their feedback. And then technical proficiencies, being familiar with the documentation tools, Microsoft Word, Google Docs. If you can use word processing and you're pretty good at that, that'll get you started. It says basic understanding of HTML, CSS. That's if you're working in like the online space and you're like editing websites. Depends on if that's like what the role requires. That would be more of like a unique environment if that's what you're actually working on. So let's see, skills and effort continued. You want to have a commitment to quality. You definitely want to have a polished document. A lot of times what I'll say is I'm just making it pretty. I'm just making it look good. I'm making it ready for publishing and digestion for the end user. So that's why you have to like really be on point with the consistently striving for clarity, accuracy, and the relevance in the documentation. And then it's gonna get constantly reviewed and updated, so just be aware that that's gonna happen. It's never really a static document, it's kind of a living document. And then effort and persistence. Becoming a skilled technical writer requires dedication and being persistent. It's a journey of continuous learning and adapting. So this might be the bad news, depends on like your unique personality. Is technical writing right for you? If you prefer creative writing over being technical, then it probably might not be for you. Those tend to be like the artsy types. People who lean towards creative, poetic, or abstract writing may find the structured and objective nature of technical writing less fulfilling. I don't know if that's entirely true though, because I've done creative writing and I've done technical writing, and I feel like if you're a good writer, you can probably do both. I think they kind of help each other. If you're just interested in technology and technical subject, if you find that boring, if you're just like, people are too on the internet too much, they need to start living in the real world more, it's probably not for you. You have to kind of have a fundamental interest in technology, science. So it basically depends on the field, right? Like if you're a healthcare professional, you could probably write technical documentation, you probably write it. If you're in, I would say like you probably read a lot of stuff with your job, like at Amtrak, like on the trains and stuff. So you probably have consumed a lot of that documentation. You could probably write some of it now,
Yeah, a little bit, not too much. Yeah.
But I mean, it's again, like it definitely helps if you leverage your own personal background.
Yeah.
If you go after roles that kind of like suit those experiences. If you have a lack of detail, it's probably not going to be
her job.
What's that?
She does a lot of writing.
See, so if you already are doing a lot of writing, you could probably transition very easily.
And she works from home. I'm trying to get home.
Remote work is ideal. If a lack of detail orientation, if you're not really focused and you can't pay attention to the detail, you probably won't succeed in this profession. It just might not be for you. And then if you have a preference for routine tasks, because it's so dynamic with technical writing, it's constantly changing. If you're used to kind of like cookie cutter assembly line work, oh, there is Elise.
Oh, he's looking.
Let me let him in.
Oh, okay.
Is the door open? It's not. It's locked. Hey, man. Alright, so yeah, if you're used to like routine tasks, like the assembly line, you probably won't like doing technical writing. Is technical writing right for you? Continues. If you have difficulty with simplifying complex information, let's see, add text, images, arts, and videos, add transition, let me see. I think I might have messed this actual slide up because I'm not sure what's happening here. But, I mean, I can speak to it. If you just have difficulty with complex information and breaking it down, a lot of times what I normally do is I'll take like a high level subject and trying to like break it into bits, kind of like the saying, if you want to eat an elephant, you do it bite by bite.
Mhm.
So if you kind of like reverse engineer like a complex topic into micro steps, you can kind of build up to that. If you have resistance to constant learning, some people just, you know, they get out of school and they're done. They don't want to like continue with the development of their mind. And if you're just complacent with what you know, this probably isn't going to be for you because the field requires ongoing learning and adaptation. Those who prefer a static body of knowledge might struggle with the evolving nature of the technical content. And then if you have limited patience for revisions and feedback, like if you get annoyed when they say, hey, we need to update this or we need to make some changes, probably not going to be for you because technical writing involves numerous revisions and often extensive feedback, so a lack of patience for this iterative process could be a hindrance. Okay, so now how to build a portfolio for your technical writing and why a portfolio matters. This is one of the first things I tell most people, like you're gonna need a portfolio. And the reason why is because a lot of times recruiters and jobs will ask for samples, and if you don't have that readily available, they won't be able to move forward in the process. So you wanna have a well-curated portfolio that demonstrates your writing skills, your technical knowledge, your ability to convey complex information clearly. This is a vital tool for showcasing your capabilities to potential employers. So basically start with like what you have, and that's like what happened with me in the beginning. I already had those articles on Motley Fool conveniently. I never knew like in the future was gonna help me. I had that internship that I did with South by Southwest, the documents that I made for them. So you may have some actual writing out there somewhere that might be actually useful that you just didn't think was gonna play a part in your eventual development. But if you already have those, you can kind of start with that. Even if they were academic projects, internships, volunteer work. A lot of times I'll tell people if you want to kind of start generating a portfolio, you might have to do some free work, but it'll help, you know, get you a document to add to the portfolio. It's definitely about the quality, not just professional experience. And you can also create samples from scratch. If you're new to the field, consider creating a mock document. This could be a user manual for common products, a frequently asked question for a hypothetical website, or technical descriptions for existing software. Definitely, like if you get good with using ChatGPT, it can kind of help you as a starting point of creating a document, and you can kind of see how they're made, and you kind of pick it apart, you kind of make it your own, rewrite it, to kind of make it sound more like yourself, how you would have approached it. And then diversity in documentation. So you want to have different types of documents for different industries. I usually tell people to try to put like maybe 5 different industries and 5 different documentation types, so you kind of have like a good broad spectrum, showing a range of skills by including these various types of technical documents in your portfolio, such as how-to guides, standard operating procedures, technical reports, and API documentation. It basically shows you're like a Swiss Army knife to these people. If they're like, man, this guy can write anything on any topic, you'll be more likely to get picked up and move further in the process. The building of a portfolio continued. Online portfolio tips. You want to create an online portfolio for easy sharing. Platforms like LinkedIn, Contently, or a personal website can be used. It's a website, Contently, you can use that as an online portfolio. I use LinkedIn. You want to ensure that your portfolio is neatly organized and easy to navigate. Regular updates and refinement. So same thing, technical documentations are living documents, so is your online portfolio. Anytime you want to update it, if you notice like your portfolio is kind of dated, definitely makes sense to go in there and make some changes, especially adding new work and older samples that no longer represent your best work. As your skills get better, you're definitely gonna reflect that with your portfolio. And then feedback and continuous improvement. It definitely helps to kind of bounce ideas with your colleagues. You want to show your portfolio off to your peers, to your mentors, see what they think, how they would approach it, gather that insight and make continuous improvements. Okay, so next thing is a resume. So you need the portfolio, you need the resume. Crafting a winning resume for technical writers. In the resume, you want to highlight relevant skills. You want to emphasize the skills that are essential for technical writing, such as a clear and concise writing, the technical knowledge, your ability to explain complex concepts, proficiency in specific writing tools, and attention to detail. You want to showcase your experience. Include your work experience relevant to technical writing. If you are new to the field, you want to highlight the transferable skills from other roles, such as research, documentation, and project management. A lot of times you'll kind of be babysitting the document. You'll have to go to the SMEs, do some extracting of the knowledge, generate the document, follow up with them. A lot of times these experts tend to be busy, so it's hard to keep up with them. So there is a level of project management involved in it, but that project management skill is highly desirable, so you can definitely use that to showcase your experience. You want to include your education and your certifications. You want to list your educational background, especially if you have a degree, but I definitely wouldn't say you have to have a degree. If you have a strong portfolio, I feel like you can get a job as a technical writer. Does it sometimes help having a degree? Yeah, I guess it does, but I wouldn't look at a job description and if it says must have a bachelor's degree, prevent you from still applying if you have a strong portfolio. A lot of people feel like, oh, I can't do this, I don't have a degree, and they shoot themselves in the foot. Any certifications in writing? Yeah, well, I mean, that's the truth, and don't let that like scare you off. Like the fear will kind of ruin a lot of things for you. If you have any certifications in writing, I don't have any certifications. Again, like if you do have that, definitely show that off in your resume. Any technical fields that you've been in and any other relevant areas. And depending on the job, you kind of want to tailor your resume for the job. What I normally do is I'll go through the job description and try to respond to that job description with like the pieces from my resume that I feel like complement it the most. So you want to customize your resume for each job application. And this really depends on if you really, really want the job. A lot of times I have like a standard resume, I send it out to all the jobs that I go for. But if, like for example with Meta, I kind of uniquely tailored it to that particular job because I'm hoping that it works out, but if it doesn't, you know, it's not a big deal. But I did sit down and make a customized resume for that job.
So you plan on leaving where you're at now and go there, or are you gonna do both?
I'm not sure yet.
Oh.
I'm not sure yet. You want to use keywords from the job description to pass through the applicant tracking system. So this is key because we live in this like digital age and artificial intelligence is being used so much. That's what the recruiters use now, right? They're using this thing called applicant tracking systems, this ATS, and they'll only call people that the bot has selected for them to call. So that's why you want to make sure that your resume is filled with the keywords to get picked up by that ATS. This will show that your skills align with what that employer is seeking. And this is kind of key. This is like optimizing your online presence. Crafting a running resume for technical writers. You want to have a portfolio link, so make sure that your resume has a link to your portfolio. This will shoot them straight over to it so they can start reviewing it. Make sure that it's concise and well formatted. Ensure that your resume is concise, clear, and well organized. Use bullet points for easy readability and keep the design simple but professional. You want to show off achievements and problem solving. Rather than just listing your duties, focus on achievements. Anything that you can quantify. Ways that you've solved problems or improved the processes in your past roles. I worked for the United States Department of Agriculture, and that job was solely focused on process improvement. And then proofread and feedback. A lot of my role is basically proofreading for errors because these guys are high-level subject matter experts. Writing isn't their forte, so that's why they kind of rely on a technical writer to clean up the language for them. And so you would just want to make sure that you're doing this with a high level of accuracy and also get feedback from your mentors and your peers, especially those that are in the industry. This is your online presence and networking for technical writers. So again, creating a professional online profile, I definitely recommend LinkedIn. I get a lot of hits from LinkedIn. And usually they're recruiters hitting me up for work. You want to highlight your technical writing skills on your portfolio, your experience, and regularly update this. As soon as I leave a role, I update it with and like all of the achievements and skills and the things that I learned from that previous one. So I keep it up to date constantly. You want to start engaging with industry communities, especially like if it's an industry that you really want to work in. Start following those companies, start following the recruiters that work for certain companies that you want to try to go for. Participate in the online forums, social media groups. If you're on Facebook, you could do a search for like a particular industry, particular company, and find like groups that support that. Same thing with LinkedIn. You want to engage in the discussions online, share your insights, stay informed about industry trends. Another thing is useful, you could start a blog, and you can use that as your online portfolio. You could start publishing articles on that blog. There's a platform called Medium that's useful for that. You could write about technical writing topics, your learning journey, industry trends, and this showcases your expertise and communication skills. And then utilizing social media effectively. Use these social media platforms to share your work, connect with industry professionals, and showcase your knowledge. Twitter is really good. You can follow people on Twitter. Well, I guess X now, but that's another online social media platform that's useful for connecting and networking. Let's see. So the online presence continued. Attending webinars, virtual events. If you can find events online, virtual conferences, it's convenient, so you don't have to go, you can just attend virtually. And let's see, these events are opportunities for learning and connecting with other professionals in the field. So you can start establishing and building these relationships. It's not just about adding contacts, you actually generally want to engage with these people to enhance your connection, and they can offer help. And you can reach out to them when you need insight or advice. And seeking mentorships and collaborations. If you look for a mentorship opportunity or collaborate on projects with experienced technical writers, this can also enhance and provide valuable learning experiences and thus expanding your professional network. So when you finally get into an interview, these are some tips for technical writers. What I normally do is if I know I'm going to interview at a company, I'll go on their website, I'll read probably a lot of the website, especially like the bios of the executives, especially if they give me like information on who I'm gonna be actually interviewing with. I'll look them up on LinkedIn, read their portfolio, and kind of like use that to have some sort of a leverage going into the conversation. You research the company and the specific role you're applying for, understand the product, service, the type of technical documentation they require. What I did for the role with Meta is I actually created a custom document for them. Tailor your responses to show how your skills align with their needs. Prepare your portfolio, have that portfolio ready to present, either in print or digitally. Be prepared to discuss specific examples from your portfolio and explain your process, the challenges you face, and how you overcame them. Anticipate technical questions. Be ready to answer technical questions related to the field and the tools that you use. For example, questions about documentation, software, style guides, and how you approach complex technical topics. And then being able to showcase your communication skills. You want to demonstrate your communication skills by answering clearly and concisely. Technical writing is about clarity and precision. And so the way you communicate during the interview will indicate your writing style. They'll be able to kind of tell, like, this guy knows what he's talking about just by the way you respond and answer. The interviewing tips continued. Having problem solving and adaptability. So be prepared to discuss how you handle challenges in your past roles and projects. Show that you are adaptable and can find creative solutions to problems. Ask insightful questions. Asking the company questions about the documentation process, their team structure, the content strategy can also demonstrate your knowledge and genuine interest in the role. Practice makes perfect. If you conduct mock interviews with your friends or a mentor, you can practice your responses and get feedback. This will help build your confidence, reduce anxiety. Definitely helps to kind of like pretend to kind of get the jitters out. And then do a follow-up after the interview, send them a thank you email, and reiterate your interest in the position and reflect briefly on why you're a good fit for the role. So these are the types of technical documentation. They have, there's user guides and manuals. This is pretty standard with any sort of new technology you get. It usually comes with a user's guide. This is basically creating a user-friendly guide for the operating software or electronics, other products. They're usually focused on clarity and step-by-step instructions. Software documentation, you can write documentation for software development, such as API documentation, developer guides, and end-user documentation. There's technical reports. These are preparing in-depth reports on technical studies and projects. These require an understanding of technical concepts and data interpretation. Policy and procedure manuals, that's what I was doing at Morgan Stanley. Every year they would update all their policies and procedures. This would be drafting manuals that outline the standard procedures and policies of a company. This is important for consistency and regulatory compliance. And then these are more examples of technical writing. Grant proposal writing, I did this with the City of Alexandria. They were trying to get money. They were a nonprofit, so that's typically how they get their funding. Proposals also really big. If you can learn how to write proposals, you can probably go pretty far with that, because I see a lot of mostly proposal writing jobs. I definitely recommend people, if they're gonna try to get into this, learning how to write a proposal or have a proposal example in their portfolio. Writing proposals and applications for funding, particularly in research and development sectors. A lot of times that's how these companies win their business. So if you're good at the proposals, they're gonna want you on the team. Technical marketing content, creating content for marketing technical products, which involve writing product descriptions, white papers, and promotional materials. Instructional design, developing educational and training material, often involving a blend of text, graphics, and multimedia. Another skill that you might want to develop is being able to manipulate imagery, like using Photoshop. Adobe Creative Suite is pretty convenient. Video editing sometimes might come into play if you do any sort of educational training materials. And then edit and proofreading technical content. Most likely, if you end up doing this job, you're gonna have to do some editing and proofreading, so having that skill is pretty much a must-have. So reviewing and refining technical documents to improve clarity and ensure accuracy. Sample documents, the API example, this is what I did for Meta. Let's see. It's right here. So during my interview with Meta, it was 3 different rounds, and during the second round, I got stumped on a question, and I knew that I didn't answer it as well as I wanted. And so as soon as I got out of that interview, I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make a document and I'm gonna send it to them and show them kind of like creative problem solving. And so I generated this document for them that basically goes over that question in granular detail of what it is, why choose, who uses it, when it needs to be used. So this is a 9-pager, and I was able to send this before my 3rd round. And hopefully this kind of helps show them like my ability, my skills of creating documentation, even when I'm not entirely sure of the topic matter initially. Yeah, so my career progression, I started with the Armed Force Health Surveillance Branch. It was biosurveillance. It was a group of developers working on proprietary software, custom for the military. I was writing all the documentation. I was the only tech writer on the team. After that, I've worked for USDA. I've worked for the post office, a lot of government contracting. But I also worked in the financial sector with Morgan Stanley. There was a guy here in Owings Mills, he has a company, Synergy, a little smaller firm, but he was writing, I was writing proposals for him, state government contracts, and now I'm doing consulting with MDH, their Medicaid transformation initiatives. So I've been able to progress in my career. I've basically been able to triple my salary since 2018.
Wow.
And there's not many jobs where you're gonna be able to triple your salary. It's kind of like, you'll get to a certain level and that's pretty much it. And so, yeah, that's the conclusion. I encourage you guys to, dig deeper into it if it sounds like it might be for you. And the floor is open for questions. If you guys have any questions that you specifically would like to ask, I'll do my best to answer them.
Right now, I'm just taking it all in, but I will have questions later.
Yeah, that's fine. You know how to find me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. That's the end of my
Thank you, I appreciate this,
presentation.
man. Seriously.
Yeah.
Thanks for
So
the invite.
okay, I'm good. I'm done. I'm gonna stop recording.
Oh.